Ain't no use me even giving the peace greeting this time because this is one of those messages of hostility. I guess I have to address the colorism crowd, B-word hypocrite crowd. So that's why it's titled the way it is, because y'all the ones I got to talk to this time. A few years ago, I saw some of these channels calling for swirling. I was unaware at that time that these same channels were going in on light-skinned African-American women, usually, and sometimes men as well, for things that we hadn't done. I didn't really check them channels out. I didn't dwell on them. But then later on, someone mistakenly brought it to my attention. He doesn't actually, he don't know that they brought it to my attention. Even now, they don't know. I haven't told them this yet. But let me explain this to you, colorism crowd B words. First off, Rashida Strober, you're not included in this, what I'm about to say. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt when you say that you're with your light-skinned boyfriend because he approached you and you don't approach men. I have seen a few signs of trauma, and I'm not the expert, but the signs I've been told I have seen, I do believe you were traumatized. And the community as a whole has been traumatized. I've been through some of that myself. So I'm not including you in this attack, and I'm not going to jump on the assumption that you are a hypocrite, but I'm not going to defend you from other men's assumptions that you are either. I'm going to leave that between y'all and them, but I'm not including you. My canon is not aimed at you. And one of the other reasons is because you have actually talked civilly. Even when you sounded insane to people, you have still spoken civilly. Even when you've raised your voice, you're not like shouting at the person you're talking to in many cases. So even when your trauma is triggered, you don't just like start swearing and cussing folks out and calling for death on them and stuff like that. Not that I've heard. Anyway, let me get on the ones who are in my sights, in the crosshairs at this point. I don't have to say names because, number one, I only remember two. But I know more than one channel. I mean, I know it's more than 4 of them out there. I'm going to say this right quick. My daughter told me about the middle of the school year that she was starting to hear these comments more about her, about people's confusion about her race. My daughter's black. She's light-skinned, but she's black. Her mother's in the middle. I'm light-skinned. She inherited my shade. I'm cool with that. That's fine. It was up to God. As a Muslim, I don't argue with God. I seek refuge from that. But she inherited that, and she said that she's begun to hear more comments about, her racial background. I thought you were mixed. And from what she's described, it was just confusion at first, and then now it's like more dismissive of her. She doesn't even hear them from African Americans as often as she hears them from Southern Nigerians, and they're not Yoruba. So you can't put this on them. As a matter of fact, the family friends of hers that are Yoruba have taken her as one of their own. That's not an issue. I'm just saying that to say who's not the issue here, who's not the problem. And my heart goes out to them simply because they treat my daughters so well, and I really do appreciate that about them. But she said this, and I want to know how safe she is. So now I got to give her a buzz and say, well, look, when school opens up, tell me how safe you think you will be. Because if she doesn't feel safe, I'm going to teach her certain moves that are going to cripple whoever attacks her. Not for her to be the aggressor, don't worry. But there's another thing. If she even gets attacked, and that's what the basis is, I'm telling you, colorism, cry, B-word hypocrites. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm giving you all's names to the cops. So even if they can't prove that you had anything to do with this, you're going to be investigated. That's going to happen. I wouldn't do this normally, but when it comes to my kids, I'm willing to do it. So at least the police will have some idea as to how much you are or are not involved in my daughter, either one of my daughters, or my grown son for that matter. Grown son being attacked if he ever gets attacked for something like that. If they determine that you are, then you will not be safe until they do put you in handcuffs. I can't guarantee your safety after that point, because I am a Muslim. And there are people on the inside. And if they find out that you were in there because of an attack on a Muslim, even if it wasn't necessarily your instructions, but if they find out that that's the charge you're facing, there are Muslim women in these prisons too, and in these jails. They probably wouldn't kill you, but they're going to beat the fear of Allah into you. And if it doesn't come to this, and they're not attacked, you don't have to worry. But the best way to play this safe, and I'm saying this right now without hatred, even though this is hostility. I'm saying this right now in a civil way. This can be prevented. You watch what the hell you say, and I'm going to tell you why it's wrong. I'm going to give you some moral, logical reasons if that makes a difference to you. Number one, you are colorism, cry, B-word hypocrites because you are saying what you say about light-skinned black women and to a certain extent light-skinned black men, but then you uphold these white men as the standard, the catch. Hold up. Colorism was in the Middle East and the neighboring areas like Iran and Afghanistan. Back then it was Persia and Afghanistan, Pakistan and India. It was there in these areas before white people even called themselves white. But in Africa, colorism was not there until the Europeans came and brought it in. You may beg to differ, but no, that's true. Arabs did not bring colorism into Africa. It was Europeans that did. Arabs had colorism, even though they were dark-skinned at that time, because they were darker than they are now. They still had colorism. Oh yeah, don't get it twisted. They had colorism for real. But they couldn't bring it into Africa because people don't understand. When Arabs went into Africa before and after Islam, they were not assumed to be any better than the Africans. So there would have been no reason they could bring an idea that stupid into places that were either quite advanced or quite backwards or usually something in between. So this idea that the Arab brought it, no, that's not true. I will blame Arabs for things they do, but when it comes to things they don't do, as much as I get on them, I'm not going to blame them for it. I'm not going to blame you for things you didn't do, and I'm not going to blame light-skinned black women or light-skinned black men for things that we didn't do. We did not bring colorism into Africa. We did not promote it. We were not running around in Africa catching other Africans and selling them off to white folks whose approval we wanted. That would imply that there was some human instinct to prefer white over black, and God is not an oppressor. And that's a blasphemous idea to apply to God. I get on these Arabs for having the same idea. I get on Indians and Pakistanis for having it even worse. Because they assume that it is human nature to prefer lighter skin over darker skin. And I have to tell them, you just called God a racist. You blaspheming, hypocrite, bastard, disbeliever. We've had some serious heated arguments about this. Fortunately, no physical fights. I was threatened before. And I straight said, the minute something happens to me, what do you think's going to happen to one of your students that's over there in my country studying? What do you think's going to happen when the Creole community, see, mind you, I'm Creole. I said, what do you think's going to happen when the Creole community finds out that one of theirs got killed by some Arabs on some anti-blackness? One of yours ain't going to make it home. You already got white folks that are willing to beat the hell out of you, and it's been done. You're going to sit up here and then start talking junk about black people? Even if you don't hate us, just you think it's okay to call us slaves means it's okay to call you terrorists and camel rapists, but you'll kill someone for that. So we should kill y'all for calling us slaves. And it can come to this if you all decide you want to attack me. Right now, I'm using a word you don't like to teach you a lesson. Violence? Y'all gonna do that? You really want to start something between people that actually normally tend to get along. When I said that, I meant me and them individually. People who normally get along. You want to start a problem of violence because you can't take correction when you're wrong? Well, then, a dead person can't call his family and say, hey, don't retaliate, can he? And that's what the hell's going to take for one of you to win a fight against me. You're going to have to kill me. Or you can stop with your nasty, racist, pro-white vocabulary, and we don't have this problem. And to tell the truth, the problem was done after that. But see, others are actually worse than the Arabs. And so you have every right to be upset with them. And I think a lot of you got this rhetoric from them, or you heard about them years ago and how, the whole world hates black people, especially the West African phenotype. The problem is you seem to have forgotten what you heard. And now you want to blame the light-skinned African Americans for this, when in fact, we're the ones who have not done this. We had nothing to do with it. If you want to be upset because white folks, if you think white folks are giving us things they're not giving you, be upset with white folks. Don't sit up here and then turn around and start getting upset with us because of what someone else turned and handed to us that you think they handed without even proving that they did it. If you want to get hung up about media representation, everybody's underrepresented. And frankly, TV ain't everything. Shout out to Brady Hartsfield. It ain't everything. But if that's what really gets you, and you think we just out here stealing roles from you, so you want to sit up here and lead to hatred because of actors' roles, you think these actors are sitting up here talking about this stuff with you? Is that what you think? You think these actors are sitting up here worried about all this colorism stuff? No, I don't think so. But see, the problem now comes from that, number one, you're barking up the wrong tree. And if it's going to affect, it doesn't even have to be my daughters or my son. If it's going to affect people that ain't done nothing to you, it's the same thing as if we were to sit up and start blaming people of your phenotype for things you didn't do, we'd be wrong. Finally, how dare you say this and then uphold the worst man on the planet, the one that oppressed everybody else all over the world? How dare you uphold him as the greatest catch and greatest prize when he's the one that brought, with gunpowder, colorism into Africa? If there's colorism, he's the one that would uphold it. If it's true that there's such a thing as light-skin privilege, they would be the ones who would try to give it. And as I've already said, when they do extend anything that you might think is light-skin privilege, they do it with the condition that we give up our integrity for it and play divisive. And most African Americans aren't willing to do that. So I want to call the rest of the community to cancel these B words. Get rid of them. Kick them out the community. Don't come around. Don't let them tell you that you need to kick out and recategorize us. We ain't the problem. No, they are. Because not only are they talking this junk about people that ain't never done nothing to them, they're also upholding the one that is the problem as the best catch. And then to make matters worse, it gets even worse than this. They know damn well that upholding this worst man on the planet as the best catch can only lead to creating the same phenotype that they already hate in pre-existing adults. Make that make sense. They want to conceive what they hate. And what could possibly be the reason for that? I cannot imagine it. See, some people thought that I hated my own phenotype. If that was the case, I just wouldn't have conceived. No. These are the ones that seem to hate their own. They really are. What they want is to be pursued by who they say they don't want. And then they want to pursue who it's crazy. So, you know what? Just cancel them. People that are not on YouTube are not going to see them on the subway and recognize their face and know to cancel them. And that's not their fault. But if those of us who know them, cancel them. You see them in person, do not say hello. Don't nod your head. Don't talk to them about their channel. None of that stuff. Just bye. Bye. And don't even say bye to them. Just act like you don't see them. You don't know them. If a white supremacist does give them any trouble, just calmly and very slowly stroll over to the nearest police officer and let them, alert them to the situation. Don't offer any help because they're actually the ones that are divisive and they're even dangerous in their hypocrisy. If there's any real threat to the genetic integrity of the black race, as they call it, it's them, not us. We were born this way. They want to create what they hate and then blame what they create. May Allah curse them. So, that being said, I hope that one day this message is irrelevant, that this won't even be a thing anymore. But, in the meantime, I hope it helps. The real, true blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man on social media, signing black out. And black, heterosexual, broke, male, dusty power, specifically because these colorism cry B-word hypocrites don't like it.